we're talking cars. We've been off for a while, and all of those who did business over the last 2 weeks of the year, I can assure you got phenomenal deals. Everybody was pushing hard. We were there the last day of the month, and we needed 6 new cars to hit our number, and we didn't leave until 10 o'clock the last day. Yeah, and
which was yesterday, right?
That's correct. We went through January 2nd. So it was definitely a fun time, and I'm sure many of you got great deals, great products on the market. A lot of great products. Of course, I'm proud of Toyota, which is what I represent. But there's a lot of great products, a lot of great deals, a lot of great deal discounts out there. So hopefully you got a part of that if you were out there listening.
Now, Louie, I don't want to interrupt you, but this goes just to prove a point to what you were been talking about for a couple weeks, that if you got into your dealership at 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon and you needed to sell 6.
Oh, no, yeah. We had deals.
I mean, Well,
I'll give you a good case in point. We had what was called a Dealer Performance Challenge from Toyota, that if we got to the 6th car, we would have got basically $10,000 back on our retro number. Now, what's crazy about it is we probably lost $4,500 to $5,000 to get that $10,000 for the whole. But the point is you want to hit your objective. There's ego involved, and you want to make sure you satisfy the manufacturer's requirements of what they expect you to do. So we ended up getting the number, and there are many dealers: Honda, Kia, Hyundai, Ford. Everyone's stretching for the same type of incentive.
Yeah.
So that's a phenomenal time.
It's just not a sales thing that you're telling people.
No,
I mean,
it's serious.
There are some people that left yesterday with
great
some
deals.
Unbelievable deals.
Great deals.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, we're talking today again, and we didn't push, but again, if you want all the car buying information you need, go to theautoschool.com. That is a website, again, that I put together probably 7 years ago. It's got everything you want to know about car buying. Very, very important implications for you as far as trading or buying or taxes or hybrids or anything you want to know about a car is located on that website. So I urge all of you to go there before a friend or family member looks to buy an automobile. And today we're talking about negotiating, how to negotiate your deal. Now, this is something that I'm sure a lot of people are interested in, because I say a lot of times people sometimes, Chip, negotiate because they think they're supposed to, not necessarily because they know how to. Would you agree with that, or what do you think?
Never heard it put quite like that. I would agree.
Well, a lot of people, what I mean by that is no disrespect. I'm saying a lot of people know when they go to a car dealership, I'm not paying sticker, and they start working a deal, but not necessarily knowing exactly how to arrive at a figure that they feel comfortable about. They still have reservations, skepticism. Is it the lowest I could have paid, Yes. So we want to kind of talk about negotiating and how you can negotiate and how that can actually, going into the deal, how that can benefit you. We'll come from couple different perspectives. Negotiating in general, we'll talk about negotiating a lease. We'll talk about negotiating your trade. There's a lot of things that you can start with. One of the things that I put down here first is only work with a dealer, or really only work with a dealer that you feel comfortable with. In other words, we go back to reputation. I mean, when you first start looking at a car, you got to consider the reputation of the dealer. You got to consider, what have you heard about the dealer? Do they give good deals? Do they work with you? Do they are they the type of dealer that has enough supply that they're willing to give you a deal, or are they too small where they want to make all the profit on the cars because they don't have enough of them? These are things that you've got to consider. But I always say you want to make an educated offer based on the research, because that minimizes the back and forth. You agree with what I'm saying there?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you always want to make sure that if you want to minimize the part that everyone hates, which is back and forth and back and forth, you want to know where you're at on the deal. So when we talk about research, we talk about going to the right sources to get the information. Now, for me as a new car dealer, this is no fun. And what I mean by that is you have access, unlike a home or a dentist or any other business, you can't go find out what the gauzes cost at the dentist office and what the tools cost to be able to determine, well, I'll pay you $300 for the root canal. I don't want to pay $1,100. You don't have that luxury. But with a car, you have the luxury of knowing exactly what a dealer got a vehicle from the manufacturer. I mean, think about that. You have the ability available to you to do that. Now, the question is, when you get that information, are you somebody who is reasonable and wants the dealer to make a few $100s or maybe $1,000, whatever you think is fair? Or are you going to go in with the lack of trust and try to hit, the dealer below the belt and work your way from a way low number? And because all those things cause that back and forth. Right. When you think about it, Chip, when you think about negotiating a deal, what perspective do you come from?
Louie, I am more of hey, look, let's just put your cards on the table. I'll put mine on the table, and
Right.
let's not make this a 2-hour thing. Let's make it a 5-minute.
And I think a lot agree with that. But as far as research is concerned, what do you do?
Yeah.
Genuinely, what is your process?
Yeah. I'll tell you, Louie, we have gone to 3 or 4 of the websites you've mentioned, kbb.com, autotrader.com, and you can, like you said, pretty much find out what the car you're buying is worth, what the car you're trading in is worth.
Right. Okay. Before we go to a break, let's touch on a tip for negotiating when you're leasing a car. There's a lot of people that love leasing. There's a lot of people that are not so fond. We've done shows on leasing versus buying. Not necessarily one's better than the other, but here is a tip that you need to understand when you're leasing a car. Okay. And that tip is basically you got to have the right timing on a lease. Now, what do you think I mean by that, Chip?
Well, you've got to make sure that your finances are in order to lease it. I mean, you've got to have good credit. Okay. And, if you hit the thing right, it could be a good deal for you. You got to make sure your timing is right with not less than 15,000 miles a year.
Hey, and those are valid points. But here's something that when I say this, you'll be like, aha. Here's specifically what I mean about timing. You don't want to lease a vehicle, go in and negotiate on a 2012 model vehicle when there's 2013s on the ground. Okay, let me say that again. You don't want to negotiate. Now, people think, wait a minute, it's year end. They want to get rid of these cars. Yes, and the dealer does want to get rid of those cars. But for you, the consumer, you're better off leasing the newer model than the older model.
For leasing.
Yes, and pay attention to what I'm saying because this is very, very important. Right. Let's say it's June or July and there's 2014 models on the ground, all right, but we're in the year 2013. The residuals are higher on a newer car. The higher the residual, the lower the monthly payment. The residuals make a huge difference because what they're saying is the car will be worth more 3 years down the road, 4 more years down the road, which means you're going to pay less on the car than you would if it was lower. So you could have a 2013 Camry and a 2014 Camry, and the lease, they may be able to work out where the payments may come into the same ballpark, but for you, the consumer, your residual value will be higher, your money factor will be lower, okay? Money factor equals interest rate, and those are the things from the whole financial perspective you want to key into. So if you're going to lease a car, one of the tips I will tell you in negotiating is always negotiate the newest model they have available on the brand that you want.
I got you.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because if not, you could be getting the year-end deal, but you could have potentially got a lower lease payment, a higher residual, a lower interest rate on the newer car. Okay. So that is a tip on leasing.
That's a huge tip.
Huge.
Now that's for leasing, not buying.
That's right. And we're going to talk about, when we come back, we're going to talk about generic tips on negotiating in general. We're going to talk about negotiating your trade because there's a couple things about your trade that if you don't think about it, you will leave money on the table. Okay. And it has nothing to do with the dealer taking advantage of you. I'm talking about something that you will not even realize if you're not paying attention. And when we come back from the break, I want to get into that tip about negotiating your trade.
All right. We'll do it. If you'd like to join the conversation, 706-453-4140, star 1039. If you've got an